Hey everybody, it's November 24th, the day after Thanksgiving, and as you can tell, I have a little bit of different scenery. I'm not at the farmhouse for sure. Actually, I'm not even in the Basque Country. I'm south of Greenville, South Carolina, and this is a pond that's behind the house, the farmhouse where my daughter Rachel and Ethan and our two grandbabies live. And we've been here now for 5 weeks on furlough, visiting churches and reporting to our supporting churches. And we have one Sunday left, and that is the day after tomorrow. We'll be heading tomorrow, actually. We'll be going to eastern North Carolina and reporting to two of our supporting churches over there. Then we get back probably in the wee hours of Monday. And this next week, then, we'll be heading back to Spain into the ministry there. And there's several things on the plate right now, and I'll tell you about those a little later. But I need to go all the way back to August, 1st of August, because our last report was almost 5 months ago. And in the first week of August, we had our workers' retreat, our 5th Christian workers' retreat. And my coworker Juan is the one that has organized this over these years, and he's brought in special guests. And this time we had a Mexican preacher, a friend of his, a friend of ours from Mexico. His name is Jorge Rocha, and we had a bunch of young families, Spanish families, as well as some missionary families in for the retreat. And it was a wonderful time of encouragement, of good preaching, of tremendous fellowship, and of course good food, times with of testimonies and singing, and just it's just every year at the end of the retreat, we see how important it is to get some of these pastors and preachers, give them I guess you could say, a little bit of a retreat or a break from their ministries, and to see them respond so well to the fellowship and teaching in a group of others like them. And so it's been good for the families. We also had not only Brother Jorge was here, but also Brandon and Tasha Fowler came and they were involved in the teaching as well, and also had a special service with our church people there. They have a special ministry, No More Prodigals, I think it's called. And anyway, very unique testimony and a unique ministry that they have. So that was an excellent time there in the first part of August. I want to ask special prayer for some young adults that I won't name, but some of our very, very faithful and young people who have been with us for many, many years. There's a number of them who really this year have been really, really struggling spiritually, and some of them I'm very concerned about. And so if you would help us in prayer, just that God would give us wisdom as we deal with some of these situations that are very delicate and very complicated. And in some cases, these young ladies and young men are not responding well, and we see them heading to destruction, really, messing their lives up. And so we've just had a very unusual year in that, a very rough year in that sense, even though there's much blessing in other areas and in other people, but that we have some that we're really, really concerned about. And so thank you for praying that God will give us wisdom, and that he will work in some of these hearts. You could definitely say prodigals who have been running from God, have been playing around with the world, and really need to come back to God. And so thank you for helping us in that. In the first part of October, on the 7th of October, we had our 43rd Intensive Institute. And David Bell from southern Spain came again, and he continued a series he started last year, in October of last year, on the United and Divided Kingdoms. And so we're going through the books of Samuel and Kings and Chronicles and trying to help the believers understand what all that was, all of those lists and those odd descriptions, and the bad ones and the bad kings and the good kings, and how they all intertwine in the prophetical books and all that. And so David is doing an excellent job, and the people love it. And So we had a good attendance, and praise the Lord for 43 of these intensive institutes that some of you follow very closely on Facebook, since we post a lot of things on there. Basically, it's a solid Saturday of Bible teaching, and we always have friends coming in from out of town, and usually there's 60 to 70 adult believers there for those events. Like I said, we're here for 6 weeks. We've been in Michigan and in Maryland. And this past week, we were in 2 supporting churches in Kentucky who were very, very generous with us, and just very grateful to the Lord for the protection on the highways and in the travels, as well as being able to report to some of these churches that have been behind us for 28 years in some cases. Most cases have been behind us for 28 years, and now we're able to show them some of the fruit of the sowing that went on in the early years of ministry when there was very little to show for it. We have this week, like I say, day after tomorrow, we'll be in North Carolina, and then heading back to Spain. We are right now in the middle of our yearly gospel postcard project, and this year we have upped the number. And so, whereas the last few years we've been sending out 27,000 gospel postcards at Christmas time to 21 towns in the area, the 18 of our immediate area, and then 3 other ones. This year we've gone to include the entire area around the city of Tolosa, which I'm not exactly sure how many towns it is, but it's at least 15 more. So we're talking about 40 towns, and now we're talking about 40,000 gospel postcards. So I just ordered them the other day. And when they arrive this next week, then we'll start dividing them up into these 40 towns, and then we'll eventually take them to the post office. And many of you who are watching, a number of you have already sponsored towns, and I think as far as the whole project cost is concerned, I think we're at about 40% right now of the number of towns or the number of homes that people have sponsored and to cover the cost for the postcard. So there's plenty of large towns left, and so maybe some of you listening to this will be interested in helping us so that we can, basically the entire project runs about $4,000 this year. And so like I said, we have about 40% of that has already come in, as people have chosen a town and said, I'll send in the $125 to make sure that town receives a gospel postcard in every single home of the town. It goes through the post office system, which is the best way to ensure that every home gets it. And so if you're interested in praying with us and following it and maybe participating, well, go to our Ayerdi website. I'll put it underneath the video there. And if you'll go there, you can see the latest update, as well as on Facebook. And then finally, we are gearing up for our 14th Missionary Teen Retreat. That's coming up in 2 weeks. And we have already, as far as I remember, the last time I looked, there were 24 missionary kids signed up from 6 or 7 different countries in Europe. And we have our special guests this year are Keith and Sarah Fleming from Brookside Baptist up in Wisconsin. We're looking forward to having them to come and to do the preaching and teaching. And then also our pastor Sweat, who recently retired from Berean, is coming with Mrs. Sweat and some of his grandchildren. And they're going to be around in Chuck Clute as well. So we're going to have quite a number of people there to help and to participate in the Missionary Teen Retreat. Again, every year, friends send in gifts to our mission board for the retreat. And what we do is when those gifts come in, we then talk with each of the missionary families. We find out how much they paid out to get their kids in. Most of them have paid hundreds of dollars to get them in, flying them in from different parts of Europe. And then we do our best to figure out which are the ones that need it the most. And we make sure that everybody gets some of that cash going back with their kids after the retreat. So it goes, if you send in a gift, no matter how much it is, we put it together, and at the end of the retreat, we send it all out and disperse it among the missionary families who have sent their kids. So a number of you have already contacted me and told me you're sending in some gifts, and so we appreciate that. And whatever comes in, we love to give out these the donations that come out. It's fun the last night to start doing all those numbers and start giving out this cash to send it back with the missionary kids to their homes, to their parents who have put out Usually it's the parents that have paid the bill there. So thank you for following that. I will may have put up a few pictures. I recently was able to meet with, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9 of the MKs that have been through our missionary team retreats, but are now students at Bob Jones University, and was able to have some pizza and fellowship with them just a couple of weeks ago. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Hopefully get this out in the next day or two. Thank you as well for praying for a number who are growing, and there we have a number of men who are stepping up into leadership. Our philosophy, our goal, reproduces that of our home church, and that is we evangelize the lost, we edify or disciple the believers, and we train leadership. And now more and more we are in the training of leadership as God gives us men, and as well ladies, for spiritual leadership. So we're seeing some beautiful things happen in that area, and it's in part to your prayers and support. So thank you. God bless you. See you next time.